Gold Thread Studios. DONS and Top Cops. Episode 1. The Body Before Breakfast. Kingston had already started moving. Before sunrise fully cleared the hills, buses were coughing awake at their stops. Vendors were arranging fruit beneath umbrellas. Taxi men leaned against cars calling destinations into the morning air. Halfway tree. Crossroads. Town. 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 Somewhere, somebody was frying dumplings. Somewhere else, a mother was pressing a school uniform while shouting at a child to hurry. Kingston did not wait for tragedy. It simply made room for it. And behind an abandoned shop on a narrow lane off Spanish Town Road, tragedy was lying face down in the dirt. Detective Inspector Shanice Morgan stood several feet away from the body. 36 years old. 11 years in serious investigations. Enough crime scenes behind her to know that the dead could tell you plenty before anybody touched them. She studied the shoes first. Clean. Too clean for the ground around him. Then the trousers. Expensive. The shirt was ordinary, but the watch wasn't. No wallet. No visible phone. One gunshot wound. Maybe two. She would wait for the pathologist. Shanice didn't like detectives who diagnosed bodies from 6 feet away. Behind her, Detective Constable Campbell Blake ducked beneath the crime scene tape. 28. Smart. Ambitious. Still young enough to believe every murder wanted to be solved. Shanice remembered when she had believed that too. Morning, Inspector. There is nothing good about it. Campbell glanced toward the body. Anybody identify him? Not officially. That word mattered. Officially. Because 12 minutes earlier, Shanice had received a call from a superintendent asking whether the dead man was Jermaine Beckford. Nobody at the scene had identified Jermaine Beckford. No identification had been recovered. No fingerprints had been processed. And Shanice had not yet transmitted photographs. Yet somebody sitting several ranks above her already had a name. She looked toward Campbell. Who called this in? Anonymous male. Emergency line. Said him see somebody lying behind the building. Recording. Control room pulling it. Cameras. One shop farther down. Owner says the system hasn't worked since last month. Shanice looked at him. Campbell smiled slightly. You don't believe him either. I didn't say anything. Your face did. That almost earned him a smile. Almost. Then Shanice looked back at the dead man. Find me another camera. At 6:45 a.m., Marcus Daley was drinking coffee on a balcony overlooking Kingston. Most people who had never met Marcus expected a Don to look like a Don. Whatever that meant. Marcus wore reading glasses. He owned linen shirts in colors most gangsters would consider insulting. He listened to old reggae on Sunday mornings and kept fresh flowers in his house because his mother had taught him that a home without flowers felt unfinished. At 44, there was barely any gray in his beard. He was lean rather than muscular, quiet rather than intimidating. He did not need to raise his voice. Other people usually lowered theirs. His telephone vibrated beside the coffee cup. Marcus looked at the screen. Unknown number. He answered. Yes. The person spoke for 9 seconds. Marcus did not interrupt. When the call ended, he placed the phone beside his cup. Across the table, his younger sister, Marcia, continued slicing papaya. You're not eating? Marcus didn't answer immediately. Jermaine dead. The knife stopped. Marcia looked up. What? They found him this morning. Where? Spanish Town Road. Her face changed. Marcus. I know. You told him not to go. I know. Then why would he? I don't know. That was what bothered Marcus. Jermaine Beckford had worked for him for 7 years. Not as a gunman. Not officially. Jermaine handled numbers, businesses, accounts, properties. Money that entered one door wearing dirty shoes and walked through another wearing a suit. Jermaine knew things. Too many things. Marcia lowered her voice. Police know who he is? Marcus looked toward the city. Yes. How? A long silence followed. Finally, Marcus reached for his coffee. That, he said quietly, is what I'm going to find out. At 7:03 a.m., Deputy Commissioner Adrian Campbell entered Police High Command. People straightened when Campbell passed. Not because he demanded it. Because reputation walked several feet ahead of him. 31 years in the Jamaica Constabulary Force had turned his name into something larger than the man himself. Gang investigations, major seizures, high-profile arrests, corruption probes, newspaper photographs, television interviews. Campbell was the officer politicians wanted standing behind microphones after a major operation. Tall, immaculate, controlled. The kind of man who could make a junior officer reconsider an entire statement simply by removing his glasses. His assistant followed him into the office. Sir, Commissioner wants the briefing at 8. Move it to 8:30. Yes, sir. And get me everything on the Spanish Town Road homicide. She hesitated. The Beckford murder? Campbell stopped. Very slowly, he turned around. Who told you the victim was Beckford? The assistant blinked. I thought. Who? Superintendent Grant mentioned it downstairs. Campbell's expression did not change. Send Grant to me. Yes, sir. She left. Campbell closed the door. For several seconds, he stood perfectly still. Then he walked to his desk, removed a second telephone from the bottom drawer, and switched it on. One message waited. Problem handled. Campbell stared at those 2 words, then deleted them. By 8 o'clock, Shanice had found her camera. Not the broken one. A private residence 2 buildings away had a small security camera angled toward the road. The owner was 73-year-old Miss Gloria Palmer. Miss Gloria had initially claimed she didn't know anything. Then Shanice discovered that Miss Gloria knew everything. She knew which neighbor's daughter had returned home at 3 in the morning. She knew the shopkeeper's camera wasn't broken. She knew somebody had purchased the empty property behind the crime scene 3 months earlier. And she knew exactly what time Jermaine arrived. 2:13. You sure? Miss Gloria looked offended. Inspector, me wake every night 2 o'clock. Why? Bladder. Kemar turned his face away. Shanice maintained professionalism with considerable effort. Miss Gloria continued. 2:13. Dark car come. What kind? Black. Make? Young man, if me could identify every car by shape, me woulda work a Toyota. Kemar nodded. Fair enough. Shanice leaned closer. Jermaine got out? One man got out. Alone. No. Shanice's attention sharpened. Who else? Driver stay inside. Another vehicle come maybe 5 minutes later. What vehicle? Miss Gloria's humor disappeared. Police. Silence. Shanice glanced at Kemar. Marked? Miss Gloria shook her head. Unmarked. But police. How do you know? Miss Gloria looked directly at Shanice. Because the man who stepped out of it was wearing uniform. That changed everything. Across Kingston, another man heard about Jermaine Beckford's death and left. Damien Reed was 32. Nobody called him Damien. Not anymore. The streets called him Duppy. The nickname had started when he was 17, after somebody swore they watched him disappear through a yard moments before police arrived. By 25, the story had changed so many times that people claimed Duppy could walk through walls. Duppy encouraged none of it. He corrected none of it either. Fear did better work when people wrote their own stories. He stood inside an auto shop watching a mechanic work beneath a BMW. A young man approached. "Boss." Duppy didn't turn. "Talk." "Jermaine gone." "I hear. King people vex." Duppy smiled. "King people always vex. They saying maybe we." Duppy turned. The young man immediately stopped talking. "Maybe we what?" "Nothing, boss." "No. Finish it." "They saying maybe we touch him." Duppy walked closer. "And did we?" The young man swallowed. "No." "Exactly." Duppy turned back toward the BMW, then smiled again. "But if King believes we did." He shrugged. "Maybe somebody wants a war." At 9:18 a.m., Detective Inspector Shanice Morgan received an instruction she had been expecting and dreading. Superintendent Wesley Grant stood inside her office. 53, 27 years in uniform. A man with a reputation for knowing precisely when to speak and when not to hear. "Give the Beckford investigation to Major Investigation." Shanice leaned back. "Why?" "High-profile victim." He became high-profile quickly. Grant stared at her. "What does that mean?" "Nothing." "Then don't say things that sound like something." Shanice folded her arms. "We've barely started." "Orders." "From above." "How far above?" "Shanice." She waited. Grant lowered his voice. "Give them the file." She studied him. "Did you know Jermaine Beckford?" "No." The answer came quickly. Perhaps too quickly. "Did you know who the victim was before we identified him?" Grant's jaw tightened. "Careful. That's not an answer." "It is the only one you're getting." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Some investigations are bigger than the detective holding them." Shanice looked at him. "And sometimes that's exactly why the detective shouldn't let go." Grant's face hardened. "Hand over the file." The door closed behind him. Kemar emerged from the adjoining room. He had heard everything. "So, we handing it over?" Shanice stared at the closed door. "Yes." Kemar frowned. She reached into her drawer and removed a flash drive. "We're handing over exactly what we had before visiting Miss Gloria." Kemar's eyebrows rose. "Inspector, you uncomfortable?" "A little." "Good." She handed him the drive. "Means your conscience still works." At 11:46 that morning, Marcus Daley attended a funeral. Not Jermaine's. An elderly woman from the community had died 4 days earlier. Marcus had paid for the coffin. He stood quietly near the back of the church. People greeted him. Some hugged him. One old woman kissed his cheek. A little boy ran toward him, and Marcus crouched to straighten the child's tie. To an outsider, he could have been a politician, a businessman, a generous neighbor, maybe all three. Then a young man approached and whispered into his ear. Marcus's expression changed. "Sure." "Yes, boss." "Who?" "Policewoman." "Name?" "Shanice Morgan." Marcus repeated it softly. "Shanice Morgan. She asking questions about Jermaine. That is her job. Questions about police. That was different." Marcus looked toward the church altar. The congregation began singing. Marcus joined them, but his mind was somewhere else. After the service, he stepped outside. His driver opened the car door. Marcus didn't enter. Find out everything about Detective Inspector Shanice Morgan. The driver nodded. Marcus caught his arm. Everything public. The man looked surprised. No foolishness. Yes, boss. And nobody touches her. Marcus released him. Anybody touches that policewoman without hearing from me first. He paused. Answers to me. That afternoon, Shanice received the security footage. The image wasn't good. Rain. Distance. Streetlights. But it was enough. At 2:13 a.m., a black sedan entered frame. At 2:19, another vehicle appeared. Dark SUV. At 2:21, a man stepped from the passenger side. Miss Gloria had been right. Uniform. The man's face was obscured, but Shanice froze the image. Zoomed. Not the face. The shoulder. Kamar leaned over. What? Look. He stared, then saw it. The insignia. Not an ordinary constable. Not even a sergeant. An officer. Senior enough to matter. Kamar whispered. Jesus. Shanice replayed the footage. At 2:31, the uniformed man returned to the SUV. At 2:34, it left. At 2:47, Jermaine Beckford's body was dragged from behind the building. Two men. Neither wore uniform. At 2:51, the black sedan disappeared. Shanice sat back. Nobody spoke. Finally, Kamar asked the question neither wanted to ask. What we do now? Shanice looked at the frozen image. We find out who owns that SUV. At 6:20 that evening, Deputy Commissioner Adrian Campbell sat alone in his office. His personal phone rang. Not the secret one. The regular one. He answered. Campbell. Silence. Then a voice he had not heard in nearly 3 years. Evening, Adrian. Campbell closed his eyes. Marcus Daley. Don't call this number. Then stop making me call it. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus laughed softly. You still do that. Do what? Lie like police training included. Campbell stood and walked toward the window. What do you want? I want to know why Jermaine is dead. I don't investigate street killings personally. Jermaine wasn't street. That distinction probably mattered more to you than whoever killed him. Marcus's voice hardened. Were your people there? Campbell said nothing. Adrian. Don't use my name. 30 years, and you still frightened of hearing your own name from my mouth? Campbell's hand tightened around the phone. Listen carefully. Whatever arrangement you think existed between us ended years ago. Marcus became quiet. Then, arrangement. Campbell realized his mistake. Marcus continued. Interesting word. Goodbye. Detective Inspector Shanice Morgan. Campbell froze. How do you know that name? Same way you knew Jermaine's before the body was identified. Neither man spoke. Marcus broke the silence. Somebody is playing both of us. There's no both of us. There has always been both of us. Campbell disconnected. His breathing had changed. Then the second phone vibrated inside his desk. He opened the drawer. A new message. The woman has the video. Campbell stared at it. Another message arrived. Authorized? Campbell typed nothing. For almost a minute, his thumb hovered above the screen. Then he deleted the message. That night, Shanice drove home alone. She lived in a modest apartment where the refrigerator contained more bottled water than actual food, and 3 plants survived largely through luck. She parked, turned off the engine. Something felt wrong. Nothing dramatic. No mysterious footsteps. No shadow running between buildings. Just instinct. 11 years of police work had taught her to respect it. She remained inside the car, looked toward her apartment. Dark. Looked at the neighboring cars. Nothing. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without speaking. A man's voice said, "Inspector Morgan? Who is this?" "You don't know me." "Then we're making progress already." Silence. The man almost laughed. Jermaine Beckford didn't die because of gang business. Shanice straightened. "Who is this?" "He died because he found something." "What?" "Money." "What money?" "Not street money." The line crackled. Shanice reached for the notebook beside her. "Whose money?" The caller whispered 2 words. "Election money," then disconnected. Shanice stared at the phone. A knock struck her passenger window. She spun around. Campbell stood outside holding up both hands. She lowered the window. "You trying to get shot?" "Sorry." "What are you doing here?" His expression told her immediately. Something had happened. Campbell held out his phone. "You need to see this." On the screen was a photograph. Jermaine Beckford. Alive. Taken approximately 6 months earlier. He was leaving a restaurant. Beside him stood Superintendent Wesley Grant. And beside Grant, Deputy Commissioner Adrian Campbell. Shanice stared at the image. "Where did you get this?" Anonymous email. She enlarged the photograph. 3 men. A dead accountant. Her commanding officer. And one of the most powerful policemen in Jamaica. Then she noticed something behind them. A 4th man reflected in the restaurant glass. Shanice enlarged the image again. Campbell whispered, "Who is that?" She didn't know. But Marcus Daley did. Because at that exact moment, sitting inside his Kingston home, the Don was looking at the same photograph. Only his copy contained a message beneath it. "They know what happened in 2004. Marcus stared at those words for a very long time. For the first time that day, the composure disappeared from his face. He walked to a locked cabinet, opened it. Inside were no guns, no drugs, no money, only documents. Marcus removed an old envelope. Across the front, in faded handwriting, were 3 words. Campbell, July 2004. He carried it to the table, opened it, and removed a photograph. 4 young men stood together. Marcus Daley was one of them. Adrian Campbell was another. The 3rd man had been dead for 22 years. And the 4th. Marcus had spent 22 years believing was dead. He turned the photograph over. One sentence was written on the back. "For men knew the truth." Marcus whispered into the empty room. "No." His telephone rang. Unknown number. Marcus answered. Nobody spoke. Then a familiar voice came through the line. Older now. Rougher, but unmistakable. "Long time, King." Marcus stopped breathing. The caller laughed. "You really thought Duppy stayed dead forever?" The line went silent. And across Kingston, 2 investigations that appeared to have nothing to do with each other began moving toward the same secret. One belonged to the police. One belonged to the streets. And somewhere between them was the truth about 2004. For 22 years, Marcus Daley had believed one thing with absolute certainty. Nathaniel Ricketts was dead. Not missing. Not hiding. Dead. Marcus had attended the funeral. He had watched Nathaniel's mother collapse beside the coffin. He had helped carry that coffin from the church. He had watched men lower it into Jamaican earth. And now a voice Marcus knew almost as well as his own had just whispered through a telephone. "Long time, King." Marcus remained beside the table. The old photograph rested before him. For young men. For lives before everything changed. Marcus. Adrian Campbell. Nathaniel Ricketts. And Peter Grant. Back then, none of them had been powerful. Marcus wasn't king. Campbell wasn't deputy commissioner. Peter wasn't Superintendent Wesley Grant's older brother. And Nathaniel wasn't a ghost. They were simply four Jamaican men standing together in 2004, unaware that one night would divide their lives into everything that came before. And everything that followed. Marcus picked up the telephone again. The caller was gone. He tried the number. Unavailable. Again. Unavailable. He lowered the phone. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something he rarely permitted himself. Fear. Not fear of dying. Men in his position learned to make peace with that possibility early. This was different. Marcus feared what the living could reveal. Detective Inspector Shanice Morgan didn't sleep. At 1:07 a.m., she was sitting at her dining table with a laptop, 2 notebooks, and coffee she had reheated twice. Kemar sat opposite her. The photograph remained on the screen. Jermaine Beckford. Superintendent Wesley Grant. Deputy Commissioner Adrian Campbell. And the unidentified fourth man reflected in the restaurant window. Kemar rubbed his eyes. We're officially doing something we're not supposed to be doing. We're sitting at a table. With evidence we were ordered to hand over. That's different. How? Shanice looked at him. Because I said so. Kemar sighed. Good enough. She enlarged the reflected man again. Older. Perhaps late 50s. Baseball cap. Part of his face obscured. But something was visible. A scar. Long. Running from below his left ear toward the jaw. Kemar stared. You recognize him? No. Facial recognition? Not through official channels. Because if somebody inside the force is involved, the minute we upload this photograph, we're telling them what we have. Kemar leaned back. So what now? Shanice closed the laptop. We investigate like it's 1995. Kemar frowned. What does that mean? We ask old people. At 7 the next morning, Marcus was already moving. His driver carried him into an older Kingston neighborhood where Marcus had grown up. Before the walls. Before the businesses. Before people started calling him Don. Children in uniforms walked toward school. Women swept yards. A radio played somewhere behind a zinc fence. Marcus asked the driver to stop. Wait here. He walked alone. The house at the end of the lane was small. Paint peeling. Bougainvillea climbing one side. Marcus knocked. Nothing. He knocked again. A woman's voice answered. Who? Marcus. Silence. Locks shifted. The door opened 3 inches. An elderly woman stared through the gap. Miss Inez Ricketts. Nathaniel's mother. She was 81 now. Her body had become smaller. Her eyes had not. Marcus Daley. Morning, Miss Inez. Don't morning me. Marcus almost smiled. Some things survive time. May I come inside? No. I need to ask you something. No. It's about Nathaniel. The door began closing. Marcus placed his palm against it. Miss Inez's eyes flashed. Move your hand. Miss Inez. Move. Your hand. Marcus obeyed immediately. She opened the door again. 22 years, nobody come here asking about Nathaniel. Police stop asking. Newspapers stop asking. You stop asking. Marcus lowered his voice. I never stopped. You just stopped asking me. That landed harder. Marcus nodded. You're right. She studied him. What happened? I got a phone call. Miss Inez became still. Marcus watched her. Too still. And suddenly he understood. You knew. She looked away. Miss Inez. Go home, Marcus. Nathaniel is alive. She said nothing. You knew he was alive. Her eyes filled. Go home. How long? She closed her eyes. Marcus stepped closer. How long have you known? 18 years. Marcus stared at her. 18. The number almost didn't make sense. You buried your son. No. I carried his coffin. You carried a coffin. Marcus's face changed. Miss Inez whispered. My son wasn't inside it. At Police High Command, Adrian Campbell was reading an intelligence briefing when Superintendent Wesley Grant entered. Campbell didn't invite him to sit. Close the door. Grant did. Jermaine Beckford. Grant's expression remained neutral. What about him? You knew him. No. Campbell tossed a printed photograph onto the desk. Grant looked down. The restaurant. Jermaine. Campbell. Himself. Grant's face changed. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. It matters to me. Campbell stood. You told my assistant Beckford's name before the scene formally identified him. Grant looked toward the window. Information travels. Apparently faster than police procedure. Grant said nothing. Campbell walked around the desk. Who called you? No one. Wrong answer. Adrian. Inside this building, you addressed me by rank. Grant laughed once. It wasn't humor. Interesting. Campbell's eyes narrowed. What? After everything we've done, now you remember rank. Silence filled the room. Campbell spoke quietly. Everything we've done? Grant realized he had stepped too far. He changed direction. I'm talking about operations. No, you're not. Grant walked toward the door. Campbell's voice stopped him. Does the name Nathaniel Ricketts mean anything to you? Grant's hand remained on the handle. He did not turn around. But Campbell saw his shoulders stiffen. That was enough. You know he's alive. Grant slowly faced him. Who told you that? Campbell's stomach dropped. He had asked whether the name meant anything. Grant had answered a different question. You just did. Miss Inez finally allowed Marcus inside. The living room seemed almost untouched by time. Family photographs covered the walls. Nathaniel as a schoolboy. Nathaniel playing football. Nathaniel at 17. Nathaniel at 24. Then nothing. Marcus stood before the last photograph. Why? Miss Inez sat. Because he would have died if he stayed. Who wanted him dead? She looked at Marcus. You know. No, I don't. You've known 22 years. I know what we were told. Exactly. Marcus turned. What does that mean? Miss Inez shook her head. Nathaniel called me 4 years after the funeral. From where? He never said. Jamaica? He never said. Did he call again? Christmas. Sometimes birthday. From the same number? No. Have you seen him? Miss Inez hesitated. Marcus caught it. When? 12 years ago. Where? Not Jamaica. Marcus exhaled slowly. Why is he back? I don't know. Is he back? She looked frightened now. Marcus crouched in front of her. Miss Inez. I told him never come back. When? Last week. Marcus's blood ran cold. He called last week? She nodded. What did he say? He said somebody found him. Who? He wouldn't tell me. What else? Tears appeared in her eyes. He said they started killing people. Marcus thought of Jermaine. Who? I don't know. Miss Inez, please. She reached for his hand. He said the same thing he said 22 years ago. Marcus waited. Her fingers tightened around his. He said police can't save him. At 10:42 a.m., Shanice and Kemar entered the records archive. They weren't supposed to be there. Technically, Shanice preferred the phrase administratively creative. An older civilian clerk named Mr. Morrison sat behind the desk eating crackers. Shanice placed the photograph in front of him. Recognize him? Morrison adjusted his glasses. No. Look again. I looked. You looked for 3 seconds. Inspector, 3 seconds is enough to know somebody I don't know. Kemar turned away to hide a smile. Shanice tapped the photograph. We think he's connected to an old case. How old? 2004. Morrison stopped chewing. Shanice noticed. What? Nothing. You stopped eating. I have to swallow eventually. Morrison. He sighed. What case? I was hoping you could tell me. That's not how archives work. Shanice slid the photograph closer. Morrison examined it again. This time properly. The humor left his face. Where did you get this? Why? Where? Anonymous source. Morrison stood. Take it away. Shanice didn't move. Who is he? I don't know. You do. I said take it away. Kemar stepped forward. Sir. Morrison lowered his voice. You young people think corruption is somebody taking an envelope. Neither detective spoke. Morrison continued. Sometimes corruption is a file disappearing. He looked toward the archive shelves. Sometimes it's a witness changing a statement. Then toward Shanice. Sometimes it's 30 people agreeing they never saw something they all saw. Shanice's pulse quickened. What happened in 2004? Morrison stared at the photograph. Ask your deputy commissioner. Deputy Reed hated mysteries. Mysteries meant somebody else knew something he didn't. That afternoon, he sat inside the back room of a barbershop while 2 men stood before him. You sure Jermaine wasn't working with police? Yes, boss. King? Yes. Politician? Maybe. Duppy looked up. Maybe is not information. The man swallowed. We checking. Duppy leaned back. Check faster. His phone rang. He answered. Yeah. A distorted voice spoke. You want Marcus Daley? Duppy smiled. Depends who's asking. Somebody who wants him gone. That list long. I can give you something better than a gun. What? A reason for his own people to kill him. Duppy stopped smiling. Now the caller had his attention. What reason? The voice said. Ask King what happened July 17th, 2004. The call ended. Duppy stared at his phone, then laughed. Now we're having fun. Shanice found the 2004 case, or what remained of it. Case 04-7719. 4 pages. That was the first problem. A homicide investigation involving 3 deaths should have contained dozens, perhaps hundreds. This one contained 4. Page 1. Incident: warehouse fire. Page 2. 3 presumed deceased. Peter Grant. Nathaniel Ricketts. Unknown male. Shanice stopped. Kemar. He leaned over. What? Peter Grant. Grant? Superintendent Grant. She searched the personnel database. Family details. Older brother. Peter Anthony Grant. Deceased July 17, 2004. Kamar whispered. Jesus. Shanice continued reading. The investigating officer's name appeared at the bottom. Detective Sergeant Adrian Campbell. They looked at each other. There it was. The connection. Campbell hadn't merely known about 2004. He had investigated it. Shanice turned to page 3. Witnesses. One name had been blacked out. Another line remained visible. Marcus Daley. Kamar sat back. The Don. Shanice nodded. Page 4 contained the official conclusion. Accidental fire. No evidence of foul play. Case closed. Shanice stared at it. 3 presumed dead. 1 future Don. 1 future deputy commissioner. 1 future superintendent whose brother supposedly died. And a 22-year-old file that had somehow been reduced to 4 pages. Somebody cleaned this, Kamar whispered. Shanice closed the folder. No. She looked toward the archive door. Somebody buried it. At 3:17 p.m., Marcus finally opened the envelope he had avoided for years. Inside was a statement. His own. July 18, 2004. He read the first line, then the second. By the third, his hands began shaking. Because the statement wasn't what he had told police. Someone had changed it. Marcus remembered sitting in an interview room at 22 years old. He remembered young Detective Sergeant Adrian Campbell asking questions. He remembered blood on his shirt. He remembered screaming. He remembered Nathaniel running. He remembered Peter Grant holding something. And he remembered the gunshot before the fire. But the official statement said Marcus had arrived after the fire began. That he had seen nobody. He turned another page. A handwritten note fell out. Marcus recognized the writing. Nathaniel. Marcus, if you ever read this, Campbell lied to all of us. Marcus sat down. Another sentence followed. Peter didn't die in the fire. Marcus stopped breathing. And beneath that, Campbell knows who killed him. Deputy Commissioner Campbell locked his office door, opened his safe, removed a file nobody in the JCF knew he possessed. The real 2004 file. Not 4 pages. 187. Photographs. Statements. Ballistics. Financial records. And 1 sealed evidence bag. Inside it was an old photograph. Marcus. Nathaniel. Peter. Campbell. Campbell sat heavily. For 22 years he had protected this file. Not to protect himself. That was what everyone would assume. The truth was worse. He had protected Marcus. He had protected Nathaniel. He had protected Grant. And he had protected Jamaica from discovering just how high the conspiracy had gone. Campbell turned to the final page. A handwritten list. Most names had been crossed out. Dead. 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 Retired. Dead. 1 name remained untouched. Campbell stared at it. Then his office telephone rang. He answered. Campbell. Sir. It was Shanice Morgan. What is it, Inspector? I need to speak with you. About? 2004. Silence. Campbell looked at the file before him. What about 2004? Case 04-7719. His face tightened. Shanice continued. 3 presumed deaths. Warehouse fire. Marcus Daley listed as witness. Campbell said nothing. And you were investigating officer. Still nothing. Sir, Campbell finally spoke. Where are you? High Command. Who is with you? Kemar Blake. Do not speak to anybody else. Shanice looked at Kemar. Why? Campbell closed the file. Because case 04-7719 wasn't an accident. Shanice's heart accelerated. What was it? Campbell looked toward his locked office door. A cover-up. Whose? Campbell's answer came quietly. Mine. Shanice arrived 12 minutes later. Campbell opened the office door himself. No phones. Sir. Phones outside. Shanice and Kemar exchanged looks. They complied. Campbell locked the door, then placed the real file on his desk. Shanice stared at its thickness. Where did you get that? I kept it. For 22 years? Yes. Why? Because everybody who tried to expose what happened started dying. Jermaine. Campbell looked at her. Jermaine found the financial trail. The election money? Campbell's expression changed. How do you know about that? Anonymous caller. Campbell muttered something beneath his breath. What? We're running out of time. For what? Before Campbell could answer, the building alarm sounded. Kemar turned toward the door. Fire. Campbell's face changed. No. He grabbed the file. Move. Shanice frowned. Sir, move. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the office. Somewhere in the corridor, people began shouting. Then came 3 sharp sounds. Not firecrackers. Gunshots. Kemar reached for his weapon. Campbell shoved the file into Shanice's hands. Take this. What about you? Back stairwell. Another gunshot. Closer. Campbell opened a cabinet and removed his service weapon. Shanice stared at him. Who is coming? Campbell looked toward the door. The people Jermaine found. How did they know we were here? Campbell looked at her. And suddenly Shanice understood. Somebody inside High Command had told them. The handle moved. Campbell raised his weapon. Go. Shanice and Kemar moved toward the rear exit. Before she disappeared, Shanice looked back. Campbell stood alone in the darkness. Gun raised. A 60-year-old policeman guarding a 22-year-old secret. The office door burst inward. Across Kingston, Marcus's telephone rang. Boss. Marcus heard panic. What? Police High Command. What about it? Something happening. Marcus stood. Campbell? Don't know. Then another call appeared. Miss Inez. Marcus switched lines. Miss Inez. She was crying. Marcus. What happened? They took me. Marcus's entire body went still. Who? They took Nathaniel. When? He came to see me. Nathaniel is in Jamaica? He came home this morning. Where are you? Marcus. Her voice broke. He told me give you something. What? A name. Marcus grabbed a pen. Tell me. Miss Inez whispered it. Marcus stopped writing. The pen slipped from his fingers. Because he knew the name. Every Jamaican knew the name. Not as a gangster. Not as a Don. Not as a policeman. As one of the country's most respected businessmen. A man whose photograph appeared at charity events. Whose companies employed thousands. Whose donations built schools. Whose name appeared beside ministers, commissioners, and foreign dignitaries. Marcus whispered. No. Miss Inez began crying harder. Nathaniel said that man started everything. Marcus looked again at the photograph from 2004. And suddenly he remembered the 4th vehicle outside the warehouse that night. A luxury car. He had forgotten it, or convinced himself he had. 22 years earlier, Marcus had watched a young businessman step from that vehicle. A businessman who was now one of the most powerful men in Jamaica. Marcus picked up his telephone. Get everybody. His driver stared at him. Everybody? Marcus's expression had changed completely. No polished businessman remained. No neighborhood benefactor. No quiet man drinking coffee above Kingston. Only King. Everybody. 20 minutes later, Shanice and Kemar emerged through a service exit carrying the real 2004 file. Police vehicles screamed into the compound. Officers ran everywhere. Nobody knew who had fired. Nobody knew who had been targeted. And nobody could find Deputy Commissioner Adrian Campbell. Shanice looked back toward the building. Where is he? Kemar shook his head. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Shanice answered. Hello. A man's voice. Calm. Older. Jamaican. Detective Morgan. Who is this? You have something belonging to me. Shanice looked at the file. How do you know what I have? The man laughed softly. Because, Inspector. A pause. I gave Campbell that file 22 years ago. Shanice froze. What do you want? The same thing everybody wants. What? To survive what comes next. The line disconnected. Kemar stared at her. Who was it? Shanice looked across Kingston. I don't know. Then another phone began ringing. Not hers. Inside the evidence file, Shanice and Kemar stared at each other. Slowly, she opened it. Buried beneath 22-year-old photographs was a small modern cell phone. Someone had planted it there. The screen displayed one incoming call. Nathaniel Ricketts. Shanice answered. Neither detective spoke. Breathing came through the line. Then, Inspector Morgan? Yes. My name is Nathaniel Ricketts. Shanice looked at Kemar. Nathaniel continued. The police declared me dead 22 years ago.